Good morning and welcome to our monthly webinar. Today's webinar is titled All Kids Healthy, Catch in Central Iowa. My name is Peter Cribb and I'm the National Director for the Catch program with the Michael and Susan Dell Center for Healthy Living at the University of Texas School of Public Health and the Austin Regional Campus. We're very excited about today's webinar, but before we get started, I would like to take care of a little housekeeping. First of all, our webinar today is being recorded and an archive will be made available on the catchusa.org website, along with a PDF of the presentation slides. During today's webinar, we encourage you to type in questions and comments via the questions box, which you can access through the control panel on your screen. You can type your questions in at any time, but to keep us on schedule, we'll try to hold off on answering them until the Q&A portion at the end of the presentation. Next, I'd like to let you know a little about the Michael and Susan Dell Center for Healthy Living. We are an international leader in conducting research and providing programs that promote healthy living for children, their families, and communities. Our work fosters improved health behaviors among the youth, influences policy and environmental change to support healthy living, and advances professional education and community service. Our vision is healthy children in a healthy world. You can find out more about the Centre on our work in school health on our website www.msdcentre.org. Now I'm delighted to introduce our special guest for today's webinar, Julia Richards Krapfl. Julia has served as coordinator of the Kohl's All Kids Healthy Childhood Prevention Program in the Center for Advocacy and Outreach at Blank Children's Hospital since 2008. From the very beginning, Julia has had a long-form vision and commitment to this program. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Psychology from the University of Iowa and a Master of Science in Counseling Psychology from the University of Kansas. Julia has also been a Catch trainer since 2011. Today, Julia is going to share with us the Blank Children's Hospital's childhood obesity prevention outreach over the past 6 years. Good morning and welcome, Julia.
Good morning, thank you. Okay, well, we can go ahead and advance to the next slide. That kind of came up funny. So I'll go ahead and get started talking
Julia,
about...
I don't know why that is doing that.
Well, I'll go ahead and just keep going. So in about 2006, our then CEO of the hospital was thinking that we really needed to get something going with childhood obesity prevention. And they applied for a small capacity building grant from the Wellmark Foundation. During the next year then, I did a lot of researching as to what was out there for obesity prevention programs that we could put into a school, maybe an after-school program, and what would be the best fit for our hospital to do as an outreach program. We looked around and identified Catch as the one that we wanted to use for several reasons. There's a strong evidence base there. We were really looking for something that had a lot of research in it. We didn't want to go reinvent the wheel, and Catch fit that niche for us. It also had ongoing support for the program. There was training available on a professional level. We could contact the Catch office, ask questions, do problem solving. Another thing that I hadn't put on here that Catch was also very consistent. It seemed to have staying power, where it seemed like a lot of programs were coming and going. Catch was consistent, and it also appeared to be very easy to use once you kind of got the training and got up and going. About the same time, I found out that the Des Moines Public Schools were adopting the Catch PE curriculum for the whole district, and they were having a very large training here. So I went to that training with all these PE teachers and found out more about it, got to actually experience being in a training and playing the games, and that really helped sell the program for me. So then we wanted to look at evaluation. We really wanted to make sure that what we were doing, we could get some good data out of. I looked into all kinds of tools, methods, the SoPlay, the SoFit, ways to evaluate this program. And I finally ran across a paper by Dr. Karen Coleman at San Diego State, who had done some evaluation of the CATCH program, and contacted her to find out more about what they used, what her recommendations would be. And she was great to talk to, and she actually referred me to Dr. Des at Kansas State University, as he had done a lot of evaluation specifically with after-school programs, which was the direction we were leaning with CATCH. So after talking with Dr. Des he referred me to somebody else who happened to be literally 30 miles up the road from us in Des Moines, and that was Dr. Greg Welk at Iowa State University. After meeting with Dr. Welk, then we were able to partner with him and his graduate students on some evaluation of this program. It turned out to be such a great partnership. We still continue to do work with him today on some other things, and one of his graduate students was even able to get a thesis paper out of some of the evaluation that they did on our program. So then we had to start looking at designing our program and getting more funding. So the next thing we did was get a 2-year grant with the Wellmark Foundation. We also were able to secure a couple of one-time grants with a couple of smaller groups to purchase some of the kits we needed for the Catch Kids Club. We started with an existing relationship that we had with the West Des Moines Community Schools. The West Des Moines Community School nurses were actually employees and so are of Blank Children's Hospital. So we kind of had that connection already, and they agreed to help us with some data collection and kind of got me in touch with the person that I needed to talk to at the after-school program. So we started with those schools in West Des Moines. We also had a new relationship with Dallas County Public Health, and that is a county that is next to the one that the Des Moines and the majority of the suburbs are in. So I was sitting on a committee out there looking at healthy weight and doing something in schools to help promote physical activity, make healthy choices in nutrition, and through that committee found out that a small town about 40-45 miles northwest of Des Moines area called Perry was very interested in our program. They had a very involved after-school program, and their site leader, the director, was very into health and wellness and really wanted to be a part of this. So we got going with 9 sites in West Des Moines. They call their program Kids West. And then the Paces site in Perry, that's what they call their after-school program up there. And this was very interesting because we had very, very different demographics. West Des Moines is suburban, it's 98% white, middle to upper middle class. And then we had Perry, which is a rural farming community. In their after-school program, they have 76% of Hispanic population. And obviously, it was being more rural, it's a little bit lower income. And a lot of their families were Spanish speaking. And so we kind of had, that was a new thing for us, dealing with a more Spanish speaking population up here. So we had some requirements of the sites that came on. They had to come to the training, they had to agree to be involved in data collection, and then they had to put on a family event. And I'll probably talk about that a little bit later. So we can switch, there we go. So Dr. John Krampitz came up and did our first training, which was beginning of several trainings with Dr. John. We did assessment in the fall, and in the spring of that first year, we collected heights and weights for BMI. We did observation with the SoPlay tool. We did accelerometer data, and then we had a couple of surveys that we had the kids answer questions on. We did the collection at 8 of the Kids West sites. If you'll remember, we had started with 9 sites. However, one of their schools is only a K through 2nd building, so they were excluded. We really focused on 3rd through 6th grades for assessment. And during that time, we also started recruiting new sites, primarily within the Des Moines School District, which is the largest school district in Iowa, and then Waukee School District, which is another suburb that actually did not start really as a suburb of Des Moines. It was a small town farming community west of Des Moines, and as our suburbs grew west, they kind of grew east, and so now it's kind of become more of a suburb here. Okay, next slide, please. So for the next year that we did this, we brought on 15 Des Moines sites and then 2 Waukee Beyond the Bell sites. That's what they call their program. We did assessment at the original 9 sites as well as the 2 Beyond the Bell and only 3 of the Metro Kids sites. We did not do assessment at all of the Metro Kids sites just because we were running out of graduate students to come down from Iowa State and run around and collect all this data. So we did what we could. And so this brought on a new mixture of an urban inner city schools and another suburban school. And so we kind of completed, you know, with our demographics there as much as we could for our area. That year we had a huge catch training with Dr. John. It was just really, really big. We also had some other programs who were adopting Catch After School here at Boys and Girls Club. They came to it. We had some other people who were interested come to it. And then we also did assessment again in the fall and the spring of that year on all of the sites that we could. So other features of that first Wellmark grant were this family event, and that was something that we had designed to try to get parents engaged in what their kids were learning at school. So the family event was designed to be like a takeout meal. We wanted the kids to, you know, use what they had learned, plan a menu, and hopefully, you know, prepare the food if they could. It kind of varied depending on the different district requirements or what they would allow the students to do. And then the parents could come and either eat with the kids or they could take something home for dinner that night. And so we had some really great things come out of that. One of the schools did like a concession stand type meal because so many of the kids were involved in after school sports and activities, and they were eating dinner at concession stands. So what could you get at a concession stand and how could you make that healthier? We provided snack ingredients for the snacks that they make in the Catch Nutrition Manual. We offered pediatric health risk assessments up if the site was interested in doing some of those, and I will talk more about those a little bit later. And we also launched a website that was housed on our Blank Children's Hospital website, and it really just kind of featured monthly articles pulled from other sources about, you know, anything related to nutrition, sleep, you know, drinking water, physical activity, those kinds of things. So next slide. Okay, so the goals of our pilot project that we did here were really to increase the moderate to vigorous physical activity and decrease sedentary activity in the kids. We wanted them more active and less sitting. We also wanted to increase their knowledge of healthy nutrition and physical activity and increase their positive attitudes toward healthy nutrition and physical activity. The idea was if these kids know more about it and start having a more positive attitude towards it, then they are going to participate and make healthier choices. We did do parental consent. We did not want to collect heights and weights on any students or observe them without the parents knowing about this. The height and weight was measured by the school nurses in West Des Moines and then the study staff and myself at other sites. We did run this through our IRB. We kind of ran into a little problem that we were kind of surprised about. There was some concern about observing children without the children knowing that they were being observed, even though the parents had given consent. And it had to do with the SoPlay tool, and I think maybe some members of our IRB not really being familiar with this kind of data collection. Most of what they were used to seeing was very medical and not some of this observation stuff. So trying to explain that if we told the kids they were going to be being observed, specifically, the kids might not behave in a natural manner, and that, you know, any ones that we did observe had already been consented. In the end, it turned out that we really didn't need the IRB approval because they decided that it was more program evaluation really instead of research. But we did go through them anyway. So next slide. Okay. Results. We were pretty happy. At 3 sites, we met the goal of significantly increasing the MVPA and decreasing the sedentary activity. The other sites showed some mixed results in that first year, and really in the second year too. Some of them decreased their sedentary, but also their moderate to vigorous. Others increased their sedentary, but overall we kind of saw more of a trend towards kids moving from that sedentary category into the light activity, and then from the light activity into the MVPA. So we were trending in the direction that we wanted to go. We found that boys were more active than girls during the observation times. And during the second year, we also looked at some of the staff behaviors, and found that the reductions in sedentary levels were associated with greater encouragement from the facilitators, encouragement more so than praise or any other thing that the staff would do. From the questionnaires, we found that the boys and girls were reporting that they were equally active at school, but the boys were more active at home. There was a similar attraction to activity between the genders. However, boys had a slightly higher perceived competence, and girls felt more parental influence on being active. So our limitations, we had a small sample size. There tend to be more younger kids than older kids enrolled in the after-school programs because the older ones are letting them stay home more, or they have things going on right after school. There were some consent issues with parents not outright refusing, but just not returning the, saying that they would consent, but then not returning the forms. At the same time, if you kind of think back, this was when the recession was really hitting the nation, and so parents were losing jobs or getting laid off, or for other reasons pulling their children out of the after-school program for financial reasons. So we kind of saw the numbers dropping off over those first 2 years. Additionally, we could not really accurately compare the cohorts due to the children not being the same during the assessments. And that not only went, in one school year between fall and spring, but across the 2 school years. So you may have kids who were enrolled one year who were not the next, things like that. Being an after-school program, the kids get picked up, and so sometimes they would leave in the middle of the assessment time, and that made it difficult to keep our numbers up. And then it was a little bit of an inconvenience for staff. I eventually had to go out and collect heights and weights at several of those West Des Moines sites because the nurses felt that they were too busy to really take the time out of their day to pull these certain kids and get heights and weights on them. So, all research is going to have lessons learned. So these were ours. So next slide. All right, so now we move into year 3. This is 2010 to 2011. We brought on the rest of the Des Moines Public School sites and then 3 other sites through the Waukee YMCA. So this town of Waukee has 2 different after-school programs. One is run through the district, and that was the first one, the Beyond the Bell, that we brought on. And then the second one is run through the YMCA, and it just depends which school you're at, which program you're at. This time we had training with Joe Ambrose out of Illinois, so that was kind of nice to get another perspective, a different trainer. We had not done any assessment from that point on, and we had a new grant that we were working under as well. Kohl's Department Stores has their Kohl's Cares program, and that's where our funding started coming from. And at the time, we combined our CATCH program with the Pediatric Health Risk Assessment program that we were doing out of our office and brought it together under this title of Kohl's All Kids Healthy. Now, at the time, we were the only hospital in the nation doing these online pediatric health risk assessments. We had a whole consenting process for this, and we had some places that were really very interested in it and participating, and we were offering it up to our after-school kids as well. We were able to, with the Kohl's funding, add a health calendar. So that was a calendar that we designed. At the time, I was working on this project with another person, and so we designed the whole calendar. We gave away, over 5,000 of these to all of the kids in the after-school programs and at other events that we were at. We were able to have giveaway items for the kids, do some presentations for the kids, newsletter, and then we had some marketing pieces like banners or postcards or some magnets that we could give out as well. At that time, we also began expanding our partnerships, specifically with the Waukee YMCA, our overarching health system, Unity Point Health, which at the time was called Iowa Health, became a sponsor of this Waukee YMCA, and so we really started expanding our work with them. And also with Polk County Conservation, which is the county that Des Moines is located in. We started doing some programming with them called Do More Outdoors. At the same time, we heard that CATCH was launching an early childhood version, so we kind of kept our eye on that. They were doing pilot testing with the Houston Head Start at the time, I believe, and so we were just kind of watching to see what would happen with that program. So next slide. Okay, so our 4th year was 2011 to 2012. We did not bring on any after-school sites. However, we did implement CATCH Early Childhood at 4 sites that were kind of an easy fit for us. The Iowa Methodist Child Care Center is the child care located at our hospital campus. And then 2 with our existing relationships in Waukee, and then one in another suburb, Loving Arms, and that just happened to be the child care center that my kids had gone to, and so I already had a relationship with them as well. We held, I believe it was the first in the nation, Catch Early Childhood Train the Trainer here in Des Moines for 3 days, at which I was able to become a certified trainer for Catch. And I only provide training, however, for the sites that partner with our program. That's part of kind of my the deal with Catch, and so that's been very huge for us because I'm able to do a couple of trainings, during the year when all these programs kind of have a high turnover rate in staff, and so I can do, 1 or 2 in the fall, 1 in the spring, getting ready for summer, and it's really saved us a lot of money that way. So moving on with the slides. All right, so in year 5, we added more after-school sites. All the after-school directors in our area kind of have a group that they meet together and talk, and the Johnston, which is another suburb, had heard about our program and was interested in becoming a part of it, as well as Ankeny, which is yet another suburb. So we brought on those sites, and we added 2 sites in a small town south of Des Moines. I wouldn't really call it a suburb. One of the pediatricians that I work closely with is from that town and was very interested in getting it brought to her community. So we got it going down there. We also tried a new thing with the public library in Norwalk, where we have a Check Catch Out program. And this has been utilized quite a bit by homeschool groups. So what we did was we got a kids club and an early childhood kit for them, and we kind of broke down the equipment into like all the frisbees are in one thing, and then the families will come in and check out maybe certain equipment and certain cards. They made some copies of the cards, and so they can check this out and take this with them for maybe like a week or so, and then use it for their after-school group, or maybe if you have a child care provider, an in-home provider, they could check it out. And so that's been interesting to kind of watch how that's gone. So last year, in 2013, 2014, we can switch slides here. There we go. All right, we discontinued our pediatric health risk assessment program. It was just not being utilized the way that we had hoped it would be, and it was costing some money, and so we just decided that if it's not going to really be used, we would discontinue that and try going in another direction. We did not bring in on any new sites, but we did add some different features to our Catch program, one being the Parent Grab and Go Breakfast. Now, this is held during the National School Breakfast Week. That year I went to 7 sites, and I give the parents a little insulated lunch tote with some quick breakfast in it, like a yogurt, a granola bar, a piece of fruit, and then some printed information about the importance of breakfast and the importance of a healthy breakfast, trying to get that connection to the parents more so than just the kids. And so the kids would get really excited about this. As you can see in one of the pictures, the staff made a poster. Other times the kids make posters, and they make sure that their parents come in and talk to me. And it's quite a adventure for me, because we get all of this food and this yogurt, and I'm picking it up every day from the grocery store, and I set up this little assembly line in my living room and make my kids help me put all this stuff in these bags, and I'm keeping fruit and yogurt cold in my refrigerator, and and then I'm at these sites every day at 6 o'clock or 6:30 or so when they open, handing out these bags. So it's quite an ordeal, but it's really very fun, and I think that the parents have appreciated it. They're sometimes surprised by it, and hopefully we're getting the message to them about the importance of a healthy breakfast. And then we tried another thing called the Healthy Cold Lunch Challenge, and so in the summer of 2013, let me think about this, we piloted it, and this grew out of teacher and staff concerns about student cold lunches, what the kids were bringing. It was always really heavy on grains, heavy on sugars, hardly any vegetables, kids bringing in 12-ounce sodas, things like that. So we partnered with the Waukee YMCA Summer Day Camp program, and we provided education to the staff on what we wanted to have done, and then we had an observation week where the staff were just supposed to record the foods that the kids brought in based on the categories of Go, Slow, and Whoa from the Catch curriculum. So during that week, they're just supposed to do observation, just record what the kids were bringing in, so we could kind of get an idea of, what percentage of their foods were go, slow, or whoa. Then we had a PowerPoint presentation that we did with the kids explaining the challenge, and they're off to the right in that picture are some of the materials that we used. The kids got to go home with a magnet. That's the one with the stoplights on it. They had a catch wristband, and then we had these punch cards made up, and there's little apples on them. And we ran this for 2 weeks, and so every day that the child brought in 3 or more go foods and 1 or fewer whoa foods, they got a punch on their card. But if it was a day that they weren't there, like maybe they don't come on Fridays, they weren't penalized for that. So the idea was to try to get 70% or more of the apples punched on their card, and then they would get an incentive at the end of those 2 weeks, which was a little flyer frisbee thing like you can see in the picture there. So this had some challenges to it. There were 4 sites. One of them kind of forgot about it and didn't do anything. I think there was some confusion in how it was supposed to go. It was just something that the staff was not used to doing. They were not used to looking at what the kids had for lunch, so the observation part was a little bit difficult. And, then trying to, again, get that message home to the parents so that the parents, would buy the right kinds of groceries and things so that the kids could bring in a healthier lunch. And we had sent home some food lists and some healthy lunch idea sheets with the kids as well. So let's go to the next slide. So the current status of Catch and All Kids Healthy in the Des Moines area through Blank Children's Hospital. We have 58 Kids Club sites with over 3,600 students. We've got about 6 sites going with Catch Early Childhood, close to 400 students there, the library checkout program for both, and we have a new pending site, and as of this morning, we might have 2 new pending sites. I got a phone call from another place that was interested as well. For the rest of the All Kids Healthy program, I have 4 standard presentations that I will go out and I will do for after-school programs, classrooms, Boy Scout groups, 4-H groups, really whoever wants me to come out. One is about food pyramid and food plate, the My Plate, just talking about what foods are in which food groups, what the serving sizes should be. We use food models to show what a serving size should be, how many servings you should have in a day. Then we have one about, we call it Feel the Fat, where I measure out fat and sugar in a meal using Crisco and sugar, and then we make a healthier choice at like a fast food restaurant and measure that out and talk about how making some small changes can really make a big difference in what you're putting in your body. And we have models of fat and muscle so they can see what like 5 pounds of fat compared to 5 pounds of muscle is like. We have one called Up and Moving where we go and talk about exercise, what it is, where you can do it, how you can do it. You don't need a lot of expensive equipment, things like that. And then we get up and turn on some music and move around. And finally, we have our Go Slow Whoa presentation that really grew out of the Healthy Cold Lunch Challenge. And so talking about how we can, some foods, just depending on what you do to it, a potato could be a go food, but French fries made out of potatoes are a whoa food. So talking about the differences there. And then I always try to have giveaways that I give to the kids, a jump rope or something that they can take home and to help reinforce and remember what we talked about. We did the grab and go breakfast again this year. We modified our Healthy Cold Lunch Challenge. We tried it over 4 weeks instead of 2. We incentivized every week instead of just at the end. And then at the end to thank the families for participating, we went out and held a Catch-a-Palooza party. And we had done those in years past as well, but not really in the same way. And we had the kids making healthy snacks, and we did an activity with them and really tried to thank them for participating in what we did. I also do some speaking at different conferences, and we try to have vendor tables at conferences to generate more interest in Catch and in our program. So next slide, please. So these are our partnerships that we've formed over the last few years. I talked about the Waukee YMCA. I sit on a committee that plans their Healthy Kids Day, which is a national YMCA initiative at the end of April. And then we also do a Healthy Halloween program where the kids can come and make a healthy snack. They can trick or treat and get non-candy treats and then participate in some other activities. Polk County Conservation, we have done a Do More Outdoors event with them, and it kind of depends on the year. There's a picture there of one of our winter events. We're trying to spread the word about outdoor activity in all seasons of the year and highlight some of the different parks around Polk County. So in this picture, families could come and check out cross-country skis and learn how to cross-country ski at one of our parks. We've had canoeing, and then we always talk about, we have hiking and birding and all kinds of things, but we always talk about simple things that you can do at home and teach, maybe some simple catch games so that you don't have to always go to a park. You can also do this in your backyard, with a hula hoop or something. We are now, our overarching health system, Unity Point Health, is the presenting sponsor for the Des Moines Downtown Farmers Market, which if you have ever read anything about Des Moines, it is rated one of the best in the nation. So if you're ever in town, be sure you come in the summer and check out our farmers market. So that picture there then is our check presentation that we did a year ago at the farmers market. And whenever I have the opportunity to be down there, I'm always talking about Go Slow and Whoa foods and what foods can you find down here at the farmers market that would be Go foods and things like that. So trying to make that connection with the kids. We have another YMCA facility here called the Healthy Living Center, and they have been running a Healthy Kids program. This would be kind of an outshoot of the Trim Kids program. So I'm now sitting on a steering committee for that and helping, guide some of the direction that we're going there. We recently have developed a partnership with the Science Center of Iowa, and that is one of the places where we're hoping to feature some more Go Slow and Whoa messaging, and they also have an on-site preschool, so that's one of our pending sites that we're kind of looking at to get Catch Early Childhood going. And finally, schools. Sometimes schools will have me come out and just do, a bunch of presentations for one thing. So I've done, nutrition education the last few years for all the second grades in Norwalk, or Ankeny, one of the elementaries up there, does an third grade gets healthy. And then Centerville is actually a very small town, very rural community down near the Iowa-Missouri border, a couple hours from Des Moines, and I've gone down there and done education with, I can't remember, a few hundred students. We really crammed in a lot in that one day down there to get some messaging out to them. So next slide. So these would be the lessons learned. First of all, staff buy-in. One thing that we have learned from doing Catch, this is our 7th year, is that it really starts with administration. You need to have administration involved and try to get them wanting the students to be more healthy. And then that's going to continue at the training. I'm always emphasizing at the training how this is everybody's responsibility, and you may think that you don't do much because you just have these kids for an hour and a half after school, but what can you do to influence them to make healthy choices? Try to make it easy for the staff. I really try to emphasize, break down that Catch physical activity. If you're not used to doing it, just start with hit the track, and do that for a week. Get the kids going with that, and that helps the kids learn what to do. It helps you learn what to do, and then start adding more pieces in as well. In my newsletter, I always have a Catch tips section, and I might pull something from one of the Catch newsletters, or pull out one of the cards or the nutrition lessons and kind of talk about a way to help make that easier for staff. Always saying thank you, telling them how much this means, telling them how important that this is, that they're involved in this. The nutrition lessons can be intimidating for some of the after-school staff because they're not used to teaching kids, standing up in front of them and talking, so I'll go out and demonstrate that if needed. And finally, if you're going to have a training, provide lunch on site. That way nobody has to leave. They can stay right there, and people get hungry. So having that on-site lunch is very important. As far as parents go, it's always trying to make a connection to the parents. What can you do to get the message home? Communication is key. During our Healthy Cold Lunch Challenge, it found that there was I couldn't communicate enough with the parents. There were still always questions. And finally, for the students, providing encouragement that we learned from our first 2 years when we did the evaluation of the program was that we want the staff to be encouraging and to set a positive example for the students. Don't be standing there drinking your 20-ounce Mountain Dew or Diet Coke. Don't be bringing in McDonald's bags. You want to set a healthy example for the kids when you're in front of them. So that is the presentation. And there's my contact information if anybody would want to contact me directly.
Great, thank you, Julia. I know when I first saw your presentation, I said, wow. I'd like to ask how many pairs of sneakers you and your team have worn out over the past 6 years. That's quite an effort.
We're all over the place.
Yeah, congratulations on the obvious impact you're having on the kids and the families there in Des Moines. I'd like to encourage anybody, if you have any questions, this would be a good time to type them in so we can get them to Julia for her response. While you're doing that, I've got a couple of questions, if you wouldn't mind, Julia.
Sure.
Could I ask you that? You mentioned communicating with the parents, and I was just wondering if you could share perhaps some of the ways you did that.
Okay. We try to do, handouts if we can. Like for the Healthy Cold Lunch Challenge, we had information that went home telling about the challenge. We had food lists, like try to get, instead of fruit canned in heavy syrup, look for, fruit canned in juice or fresh fruit. And then ideas for healthy cold lunches, because sometimes parents are just, it's all they can do to get something in a lunch bag, let alone it being healthy. So trying to give them ideas, but also if there's ways that we can get them on the newsletter list, or that we can email information to the site leaders that they can then email out to the parents. With technology today, parents may be more likely to read something while they're standing in line waiting for their child to get done with dance class, instead of pulling something out of a backpack and reading it. So those are just a few of the things we've tried.
Great. And how did the parents respond?
Well, that was pretty mixed, honestly. Some parents really appreciate what we do, especially if we can see them in person, like at the farmer's market or at one of the events. They just think it's great. They really enjoy it. But on the flip side of that, are those the parents that are going to be more drawn to healthy choices in the first place? For some of the parents with our Healthy Cold Lunch Challenge, they really didn't think it was anybody's business what they packed for their child for lunch. We heard that it was discriminating against their child because their child was vegetarian or had food allergies and they couldn't pack healthy foods. And so it was really very, very mixed. So we just found that, the more communication we could try to do, we did.
Right, absolutely. I've got a couple of questions coming in, Julia. I guess one question is, how did you go about getting your initial catch training?
How did we go about getting the initial catch training? We, I think, probably emailed you, Peter, or somebody at Catch and said that, we'd really like to get going with this and get a training scheduled. So we got that once we worked with you, and then we also worked with Flag House in New Jersey and just got it all set up and picked a date and found a location, and it was really pretty simple.
Great. And following that question, I'm not aware of any, but are you aware of any trainings coming up in your area that you might be conducting?
I am doing a training on Monday. And we used to be able to do those trainings here at the hospital, but they tore down our building we were doing those in. So I have to find an off-site location. But I am having one on Monday, and they can contact me if they would like to learn more about that.
Yeah, great, because we had a question from Justine, and we'll connect you to for that. That would be fantastic.
Okay.
You mentioned you gave incentives. Can you give some examples of the incentives?
Incentives to the kids?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. We had ice packs made so that they could freeze them and then they could bring them in their cold lunch. And we have water bottle clips so that if they don't, if they have just one of those water bottles from the grocery store, the convenience store, the plastic ones, they can just, it slips on over the neck of that and then they can clip it to their backpack. We did jump ropes, we did pedometers, we've done frisbees. And because we have the Kohl's funding, we're able to get all of those and we can logo all of those. And we also did mini soccer balls, water bottles we've done before, lots of things.
Great. It looks like training's a popular topic right now. We don't particularly have a list of trainings, but people are more than welcome to contact me, and I will provide them with information on where we know trainings are happening, and if you want, maybe we could even work with you in establishing a training where we could invite others to come. So
Sure.
we've got different methods and systems for helping to provide you with that resource. And I think you'll agree too, Julia, an important part of this process is preparing your folks. I guess one of the things too, you talked about the staff, and then you mentioned also at the end there some of the folks who work with the kids in the after school not being very comfortable or confident with the nutrition sessions. Outside of that, how have your facilitators responded to the program?
They've been really pleased with it, especially those who already understand the importance of health and wellness for children, most of them have said it's so easy to use. They just pull out a card, it tells them what equipment they need, it tells them how to set it up, and they, kind of be prepared ahead of time a little bit. That's another thing that I do stress when I do trainings is, take a few minutes the day before, the week before, kind of plan out what you're going to do, pull your cards and look at it so you're not scrambling the day of to figure out what you're going to do. The nutrition lessons have been a little bit more of a challenge for some of our sites, but some other ones, like if they have an early out on Wednesdays, that's the day they do nutrition lessons, and just it's standard, they always do them, they're good to go.
Great. Advice to others in a similar scenario to yourself. I know we've got several hospitals around the country that are working in their communities supporting childhood prevention outreach efforts. What advice would you send to folks thinking about this?
I think my advice would be, if you're wanting to go the catch route, I think that's a really great route because, it's research-based, it's sustainable. Once you get a catch kit and you have some training, you don't have to do a lot more investment in it. But, look for partners that you can work with, whether they're funding partners or otherwise, and pull together your resources. Talk to your schools. What do they want? Do the schools even want this? Because if you've got something and you're trying to push it at them and it's not what they want, you're not really going to get very far. So start establishing those relationships before you start, purchasing your catch equipment and your training.
Great, that's great advice. And I'd also suggest too, we didn't have this resource at our last webinar, but we've created the Catch Global Foundation, and one of our missions goals is to assist folks in delivering these important health messages to the kids. So if you are looking for help with locating funders, please don't hesitate to send me an email or call me directly, and we'll see what we can do to help. I don't think we've got any more questions at this stage, Julia, but we'll certainly pass them along if we get them in, if you wouldn't mind responding, and I'll do my best at my end as well. Thank you once again for sharing all the wonderful work over the last 6 years. I know it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. It takes time and step by step. You've obviously done that, and from what I've heard from Dr. John, you had that vision, and it's realized now. And again, thank you for your commitment to the schools and to the community that you're working in.
Well, thank you. It's been so great to be a part of the Catch family, and you guys are terrific with your support. So it's been wonderful.
Thank you again. And until our next webinar, take care, everybody.